My guest on This Week in Venture Capital is Gregg Spiridellis, the founder and CEO of JibJab. Join us. Welcome to This Week in Venture Capital. My guest this week is Gregg Spiridellis from JibJab. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And somebody wrote me, I was telling people we were going to do this show, and I said, you're going to love Gregg Spiridellis because we spent a lot of time together. You're LA based. Yeah. And someone immediately wrote me back, said, I guarantee you'll have a JibJab stuff on.
Absolutely. The hat, and I took off the hoodie that also had the logo.
But I think it's smart. Like, I always see people at cocktail parties, and if you do it in a classy way, I think it's good. It gets the brand across.
My wife would have something to say about that.
My wife actually did say something about it. So you and I went on Fox Business News together. You'll remember that. You and your brother were on. And you guys wore hats on national TV. And my wife said, his mom's probably watching, shaking her head.
Absolutely.
Saying, how could my son go on national TV and wear a hat?
She didn't see my hair that day. That's how. Excellent.
Well, we're going to get to it. You've been at this now for 11 years.
Yes.
1999. We're going to talk about that and the life of an 11-year company that everybody knows. I mean, JibJab is part of the psyche of the internet, which is a great milestone. How did you get started? When did you graduate? What did you work on? What led you to that moment?
Yeah, so I was a finance undergrad at Rutgers. I went into investment banking, 2 years at Goldman, 2 years at Bear Stearns, went to Wharton, did my MBA. My brother was an independent artist, had gone to Parsons. And while I was doing my MBA, kind of trying to figure out, what I wanted to do with my life, Evan and his friends were just making incredible things with off-the-shelf technologies, things that just a few, that they spend a few $1,000s to get set up on, and just a few years earlier would have cost a studio millions of dollars to produce. And so it became it was really interesting that talent was now going to be the barrier to entry, as opposed to, can you produce this really capital intense thing that a studio could produce?
I mean, order of magnitude, the stuff that he was producing then in 99 or just before then, how expensive was that stuff to produce before he started doing this?
You mean when
he was doing, because he did kind of animated short form video, right?
Yep.
And he's an artist by nature.
Yep, totally.
So was he doing this stuff offline first, or how much would a video segment have cost?
It was, he was doing things in his living room just by himself with a few lights, a camera, and a desktop computer that was of the quality of, say, a Rankin Bass studio production, if you know stop motion holiday videos. By himself. And it was because he had the talent and the artistic eye to do it. It wasn't, he didn't need the capital. He didn't need to go convince somebody to give him lots of money.
Were there technical changes that drove down the costs, or
digital imagery? I mean, the ability to actually snap a photo, put it into a piece of software, and string those photos together.
So you went to your MBA. Intending to go back into banking?
I didn't know. I was going to go back. My summer, I did private equity. I did middle market LBOs. It was I did high yield junk bonds at Bear Stearns. I mean, but I was always fascinated with computers. I mean, when I was a kid, I had the Apple II and Franklin's, and I was on BBSs, and it was always a passion of mine. And so, thank God I went to business school when I did, because it created the headspace for me to step back and really get invested in what was happening in the internet, which was really exciting at the time.
And you graduated in 99.
So I graduated in 99, and my brother and I, talk about my mom worried about my hat, talk about $100,000 Wharton education out the window to go make cartoons on the interweb. It's like, what are you, nuts? But we really saw,
But in 99, a lot of people were doing it. So you had the air cover, right?
Not a lot. No one was doing video, Wharton? Really. No. Well,
I mean,
startups, definitely. You had the social air cover. I mean, that is another thing I'm very blessed about. It's like, it wasn't cool to go to Goldman Sachs or McKinsey in 99. I mean, it was cool if you went to eaststupidcompany.com in the Bay Area, but if you went to McKinsey, forget it. You were stodgy.
And did you immediately after Wharton move to LA?
No. So my brother was in Brooklyn, and while I was at Wharton, he would pass. I showed him the internet and Flash. I was fascinated with Flash because that was the primary animation tool back then. And he started making things and sending them to me, and we started talking. And so after business, we said, let's like open up a shop here. It was really obvious that production costs were falling. The internet represented an opportunity to open up distribution, and that those two things meant we could try to build a brand together. And because we had no media experience whatsoever, we had no idea what a dumb, insane idea that was. So we just did it. We just like set up a shingle and started working.
Yeah, I always say, it's for me, the interesting thing about being an entrepreneur is this idea I call naive optimism.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, so you're like, we can do this, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's what it takes to produce amazing
results. You don't have the experience. You don't know all the reasons why it can't be done.
Yeah, and then you become jaded and whatever. Did you raise money initially?
So we raised $50,000 of friends and family, just enough to turn the lights on. Had a small storefront, literally, in Brooklyn. Bought a bunch of Blueberry iMacs and had Evan's artist friends come in, and we just started making videos and putting them on the web.
And initially, did you envisage an agency model, like we can produce these for brands and charge them, or?
We didn't see it, no. But the beauty of our model was, with my brother's talent and ability to produce, was we had something that we could sell and an expertise in an area where there wasn't a lot of expertise. So the idea was do enough service work to actually fund the original productions that would help us build a brand over the long term. So we did agency work, but it was never kind of the monetization. The monetization, we didn't even know the monetization. What we knew was this is an insanely powerful medium. The landscape is wide open. If we can build a brand here, the money will follow. And it may take some time, but if we're there when it happens.
You were passionate about the product.
Totally passionate about
it. Just to be responsive to people, if you want to ask questions in the chat room, Brad Hoffman wants to know if you're Greek.
Yes, actually a mutt, a Greek Jew. So father's Greek, mother is Jewish.
Gotcha. So I don't know what analogies we would draw from that, but when you decide to go into business with your brother, is that, look, we know the golden rule of venture capital anyway is be careful funding a husband and wife team. And then the second is be careful about funding a family.
Well, I think the key for us is that we have such distinct skills and experiences that we bring to the table. That there's a very clear line in terms of where our expertises lie, and also that the trust that, if something comes up that's creatively related and he's got a strong opinion, then by all means run with it, because I've got 400 other business and marketing and product things that I've got to deal with. So there's a trust.
Did you guys know from day one that you were the CEO?
I was. That was never. I was. He was a creative guy, and we're co-founders, and it's kind of interesting in that. So that when we sat down day one and kind of just said, and I don't even know if we said I'm the CEO. Actually, I'm CEO guy. So we call ourselves co-founders. But what was great about working with him was I'd been in banking 4 years, and I'd been, in business school at Toronto, and he just had the innate instinctual kind of thinking on business that was he's certainly no flighty artist. His instincts were awesome, and so for me it was actually really refreshing, and had a great partner to be able to bounce things off that hadn't been polluted by 5 years of business.
No, this is true, and it's something that's hard to explain, but the idea of working in a consulting firm, working at a bank, going to business school, being book smart, it's all kind of abstract knowledge. And then you look at what it takes to be successful at a startup, very little of that is relevant to, especially the early days, I think. Over time, understanding finance matters a lot, and understanding marketing matters, but there's so much to that instinctual decision making. I want to thank one of our sponsors, and then I want to talk, when we finish with that, about the big break, because as I said, JibJab is part of the psyche that we all have about what the internet is. I don't remember if it was This Land Is Your Land was the first big one or what was, but we're going to come in a moment. I want to talk about Fenwick and West. Fenwick and West is one of our sponsors. Have you ever used Fenwick and West, or do you know them?
I haven't used them. Cindy Hess is great.
You haven't used them, but you know she's great.
Yeah,
you know she's great.
Ted Wang as well.
Yeah. How do you know they're great?
They do a lot of work with Polaris, and
Polaris
great
is your
reputation.
venture capital.
Yeah. So yeah, great folks.
Yeah, and Polaris is fun. We had Mike Hirschland on the show. They're based out of Boston, but he spends a lot of time in the Bay Area.
Yeah, they have Dogpatch Labs.
Exactly, in a few locations. I guess is a good segue. I was going to ask you later. No, let's finish Fenwick and West, and I'll ask you the other questions. So they work a lot with Polaris, so that's where you've experienced them. As I always say on the show, I also worked with them. I had a great experience. For anyone who hasn't watched the show and doesn't know, Fenwick and West has been named as John Chambers' go-to law firm, John Chambers being the longtime CEO of Cisco, and they also work for 470 VC-backed companies. So, I endorse them. I don't, one thing, someone once asked about advertisers on the show, and they said I speak about them for too long. I'll say two things. One is they pay for the show, and I take no money. Someone asked me on Quora this week, they asked if I'm compensated for the show. I'm not. I was offered compensation. I turned it down because I don't want anyone to think I do this for the money. And Mo, who leads sales here, knows I won't take any advertiser that I won't endorse. So we went for a period of time with two because he tried to put one in front of me I didn't want to do. So I endorse Fenwick and West. What was the first big breakthrough?
So, over 11 years, you can imagine there have been, kind of a series of breakthroughs. So
the first one, we started in October 99. In February 2000, we released something. It was a little interactive video called The Founding Fathers Rap. And, we had gone from a few hundred people on our site a day to like 10,000 or something. So it was like this really little kind of early web cult hit. And then in November 2000, we did a Bush Gore rap battle, which was like huge. It was like we had like 1 million views or something. I don't even remember now. But back
what was
then,
the theme of that one? I'm trying to remember. It was Bush versus Gore, and they did a rap battle. It was great. And we got on Mad TV, and it was on CNN. I mean, it was like in all the places. So we thought,
was it organic, or did you go out and try to do marketing to the media agencies?
No, it was all organic. I mean, one of the things we did really early on was why we were building the business was because the web was a two-way medium. We could build a direct relationship with our audience and actually capture email addresses and let people know we release new things. So by the time every release we did, we had a bigger and bigger audience to kind of introduce to the content. And so in November 2000, we had this big hit with Bush Gore rap battle that really opened our eyes to, wow, music and politics and comedy. That seems to be like the sweet spot on the web. So, then came the dot-com crash, and we moved out to California. And 4.5 years later, after we started the business, we were starting to say it's just me and my brother. We had to shut down from 13 of us in Brooklyn to the 2 of us in California, and we're starting to wonder, is this ever going to work?
When did you move out?
In 9 years ago, so 2002.
Okay.
We started, is this ever going to work? And then let's throw all the chips into the 2004 presidential election, because we know presidential elections and politics and music, and boom, we hit with something called This Land Is Your Land, and that was just a monster
that's the
success.
First that I remember. The monstrous.
Yeah, I mean, it was pre-YouTube, which was almost impossible to imagine. So, you think about it, we did 80 million views for our political satire that year, which is even big by today's standard, but the difference is back then, 80 million views was basically 100% share of voice of people watching video.
Yeah.
If you watched video at that time, chances are you saw our thing, and it still had kind of a novelty.
Even if you didn't, because it was on the news.
Oh, TV, we added up the impressions for the offline impressions, 590 million offline impressions in the 6 months leading up to the election that year.
Has any politician ever reached out to you? And
no, but the visibility for that piece was so high that the Kerry camp, the Bush camp, everyone was being asked about it in the news, which was totally wild. And subsequently, we've been invited. These Washington dinners. We've released a video and met both Bush and Obama. We released original videos at 2 dinners in
And
DC,
he didn't ask you about how big you made his ears and his.
No, he didn't actually. He laughed. He was a really good sport about it.
He seems a good sport about stuff like that. Why did you move to LA?
Well, it was kind of depressing in 2000 and 2001, and the dot-com thing had basically imploded. We had built an original programming business, licensing content to partners that were very well venture funded, but had absolutely no business models. And I remember I came out here one summer, the summer of 2001. I called my brother. It was 2000 or 2001. I called my brother and I said, we better like start to figure this out, because there's a lot of really good-looking people drinking cappuccinos and snacks. I have no idea what they're doing, and I don't think these checks are going to keep coming. So we basically had to go from 13 or so people down to the two of us, and we just said, let's kind of move out and kind of start fresh. And
in the early days, did you ever think about quitting? Did you hit a moment where you're like, I kind of feel like I got this $100,000 of debt from Morton to pay off?
No, we were so, in hindsight, it's obvious. Where we were looking forward, though, we just believed in it. You could not look at the internet and say, this is not going to be, for us, it was like, this is going to be a huge medium, and this whole implosion is a setback, and, but over time, how can a medium this powerful not emerge to be the king of all media?
And JibJab, how'd you get the name?
Totally made it up. We came up with about 50 names. It was a name I had come up with for something that I had, a business idea I had thought of when I was in business school, totally unrelated, and I can't even remember what it was, but it was in the list, and it was available, and we took it. And in hindsight, it's just worked so well for us. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat room from a username I probably shouldn't read out, although I think both of our kids, or all of our kids, would love it. It's, I like to poop.
Okay, excellent.
I get a lot of that kind of humor in my house.
Absolutely, and you get a lot of it on JibJab, too.
Yeah, so, I was going to say, just a quick aside, I remember once showing my son one of your videos.
Yeah.
I told you the story one time before when we were at dinner, it's the one with the Halloween pumpkin, and they stab it, whatever. And my son was about 3, and I showed it, and my wife's like, what are you doing showing?
She mentioned that at that dinner you just talked about,
He was obsessed with it. I want the pumpkin. I want the pumpkin. I like to poop. Would like to know if you're ever going to do JibJab the movie.
JibJab the movie, it's not right now or not anytime soon. It's the interesting thing is we've never looked at this medium as an opportunity to jump into others. Now, what we're building is a brand, and if there are opportunities in the future, great, but it's like our resources are 110% online. We've had opportunity to do TV and film, and it's just not where we think the big long-term opportunity to build something great is. So we're here, we're online.
And raising venture capital, you raised money when?
So we raised money in May of 2006. We're about
that was the very first money you raised?
6.5 years into the business. So you know what, if I would have raised money in '99, I wouldn't have been able to stay in business. So I as a former banker, I was always terrified of taking money because I didn't know how I was going to make it.
How did you fund yourself for 6+ years, 7 years?
3 months of cash in the bank at all times. Very cautiously. With a balance of service work to make sure.
Did you ever have to call creditors and say, "Look, I can't pay you this month. No, I need 30 days."
Luckily, never.
You never had to do
never not.
I raised venture capital, and I had to do that.
Yeah. It's luckily. I'm a very cautious guy by nature, so I think, and my brother is a really reasonable guy, and so I think we've always just been really cautious. We've known how insane the monetary side of our business was and how unpredictable it was. And so we tried to always, balance that and not get too extended.
And 2006, what changed? Why did you suddenly say, let's take some VC?
Yeah, so in 2004 we had this huge hit, and and after that we were able to do some exclusive licensing deals with Yahoo and MSN, and we were kind of back on track with where we were with the model in '99, which was produce original programming, do a 12-month what we called third-party exclusive with Yahoo or MSN, which meant it would be on their site and on our site. No one else would get to distribute it. Well, along came something called YouTube, which kind of killed the exclusive licensing business online. And so it was that, the writing, once again, like it was in the .com crash, the writing was on the wall pretty fast for us with YouTube that, you know, the genie's out of the bottle and exclusive licensing deals aren't going to be a way to make money.
And just to talk about it, I just want to make sure that the viewers really understand it. So, you know, if you think about any media distribution model, you're producing, other people have eyeballs. You probably had some eyeballs on JibJab.com, but you have Yahoo and MSN back then who had millions, if not tens or hundreds of millions. And were they paying you money?
Or even better, they had ad sales teams.
They had ad sales teams.
So, you know what I mean? So they had the eyeballs, and we had a lot of traffic too, but they had the ability to monetize it. But what they were doing
Did
is
they give you guaranteed upfronts, or was it a rev share?
All of our business on the licensing side was always guarantees upfront against rev shares. We never do straight rev shares.
What in the old days, because I won't ask you anything sensitive about how it works today. Back in the old days, before we had gray hair, what were the rev splits? Like, what would people expect in a media partnership with a Yahoo, MSN, or whatever to get in a rev share?
You know, I would say our splits across when we were doing exclusive licensing, our rev share, our deals always consisted of an advance and anywhere from 35 to 50% of revenue, of ad revenue against the content.
Did you ever hire, in those days, your own sales team, and sometimes they would sell, sometimes you would sell?
No. I mean, you know,
you didn't want to have sales.
You know what, here's the thing. I knew it wasn't consistent. We were in a hit business, you know what I mean? And that's a really scary business. So you never know what your inventory is going to be when you're in a hit business online, and I didn't want to put that money into that kind of a risky
Why did YouTube change your business in terms of that distribution? And the reason I ask is, so YouTube in the early days was, you know, upload your videos of your cat, and Mentos and Diet Coke. What?
Or Lazy Sunday, right?
All these kind of videos. And why did that affect the nature of your distribution agreements?
Well, I think, you know, there was this video called Lazy Sunday, which was an SNL skit, and I think it was an eye-opening moment that the idea of I mean, that was probably the nail in the coffin of kind of the idea that people could keep their grasp on distribution of video content.
Right.
And so when you look at that, you know, we're smart enough, luckily, to say, well, if we're seeing this, then the guys who are writing us, you know, these checks are also seeing this, and why are they going to write this check if this content is going to they're going to have a big premiere for it wherever, and it's going to be on their homepage and all this stuff, and guess what? All the virality is going to go to YouTube because YouTube is wired from the product side for virality. So, you know, it's like you're putting two horses next to each other, Portal product versus YouTube product, and you put a video on each, and you're going to guess which one's going to get the most traffic.
In the early days, you had been in video. I mean, I think YouTube was 05.
Yeah, 05. I think January 05 they came out.
So you'd already been in the business for 6 years. Before YouTube, there was
depressing.
I'm not going to go there, but there had been VO, and Rever, and Gooba, and a whole host of them.
Before that, Pop.com and Den.net, and you know.
We won't talk about Den, but and then YouTube emerges. Were you tempted to say, "Fucking hell, we could do this. Let's go try to do something like this"?
Never on the YouTube side.
Right.
You know, we knew we were a brand. I mean, that's what we were building, and you know, YouTube was not a brand sensibility; it was a technology platform, and so we realized that. What I will say is that there were probably 2 years of my life that I wish I could have back, where I would not be kind of lured by the siren song of YouTube product. I think there were 2 years where we were saying, this is how we need to build our web product for video, because this is where they put the share button, and that's what their interface looks like. And you know, and I think so we were swayed by it, but never to compete, but maybe more on kind of the product execution side.
But did you start to think differently about distribution? Because in the old days, it's Yahoo and MSN and AOL. Now you have this new platform. Did you think, hang on a second, we could put it out on YouTube, drive viral adoption that way? Or was it, you couldn't really monetize back in those days?
Well, we couldn't monetize, but We were doing just fine on JibJab. I mean, the thing is, but the way we got Thisland kicked off was over, the 4.5 years, we had built up a newsletter base of 100,000, like really diehard fans. So when we launched something, we were able to use that as a base to get really broad distribution. And the one thing we were really smart about from the beginning was virality. Like, always above the fold, sign up for our newsletter, send this to a friend, exposing the form field right there. I mean, it wasn't called virality back then, but we were good at it. So, we drive people to our own branded experience.
It's a wonderful segue. Okay. You've been doing virality since very early.
Yep.
We have a sponsor called CloudSponge. They focus on virality. What they do is they enable you to plug in without having to do any coding. The ability to integrate with Gmail, with OS X Mail, with Mac Mail, with Outlook, and take a user and drive viral adoption that way. I mean, you have to have your own viral program, but you have a kind of loop. Did you build that kind of stuff on your own?
Yeah, I mean, when 5 years ago or whenever, or however long ago, no one was doing this stuff. I mean, I wish there were all the widgets and plug and play stuff, so my engineers could be, focused on building.
But back in the day, if people like CloudSponge existed, you'd rather just plug it in. Oh,
absolutely. Why? Yeah. Why? I mean, I'm not in the tool space. So yeah.
If you want to use it, and Greg could have used it back in the day, if you enter Twivc, TWIVC, and you sign up, you'll get 3 months for free. So YouTube launched. You lost your exclusives. Your business was.
We didn't lose them. We just knew that you knew they were going to. That model was going away.
You knew the days were done, and you said we better raise some money. Is that kind of the?
It wasn't. It wasn't out of the fear. It was more that by that point we had a brand. I mean, we had built a national brand, and the fact that I knew we were going to be entering a period where we would be doing ourselves a disservice to try to bootstrap. We had this great brand. We were looking at our near-term revenue model going away. I knew we'd not be maximizing the value creation over the next few years if we couldn't invest in the brand and actually buy ourselves some runway to figure out where the money was going to come from. And it was also, the idea was, based on what was happening in the space, was that YouTube was great for amateur video, but that brands were going to want to work with more premium produced content providers. And so the original model was to go out and to work with brands and to produce original programming that was sponsored by brands that we could distribute everywhere, including JibJab, YouTube, wherever.
So DBSCG asks, and it just scrolled off, but I think I remember the question. Can you guys scroll down a little bit just so I can get the exact question? If anyone's, thank you. So they're scrolling down to the question. Okay, good. Crap, I can't see it. Whoa, yeah, sorry. What percentage of your revenue is from folks who want to save their videos? So you enable people to download it onto a DVD, or I guess these days, last I saw it did that, maybe even just download it directly to the computer.
Yeah.
Is that a meaningful part of your revenue?
Yeah, we sell significant numbers of digital downloads. So our revenue streams are subscriptions for memberships, which get you access to the full library of content, digital downloads, which let you download your personalized movies, and then we also sell personalized hard goods. So when you make your elf video, merch, it's merch. When you make your video, tchotchkes, I think they call it. You can put your
That's a Jewish term.
Yeah, exactly. You can put your elves onto a mug. We do that too. But downloads is a meaningful part of a business. Subscriptions is the vast majority of our business. I don't want to go into specific percentages, but but if you looked at our pie, subscriptions might look like Pac-Man.
That's great.
I'm not going to tell you how wide his mouth is open, though, right?
But subs is where it's at. You didn't mention advertising.
Yeah. We moved away from advertising. The original model funded, when we funded the company, was we're going to be a studio that produces...
But is it 0% advertising?
It is. It might register as a 0.1. We do not. It's all direct to consumer.
What drives? I know what drives the desire to have a subscription business. It's predictable. You can plan on cash flow. It doesn't require expensive salespeople and all these things. Is there some reason why you also, in addition, don't want to do some sort
Absolutely.
Okay.
For us, and we've done advertising through the years. 2 years ago, we made the decision to move away from a purely ad-based model for a very simple reason, and that's, we have a brand and a relationship with our audience, and if you want to do integrated sponsorships, if you want to do other things, you wind up with a third party at the table whose objectives are different than our objectives as a brand in terms of what we want to produce and what the audience necessarily wants. So managing all of the stakeholders in a integrated brand business for the type of content we do, for comedy programming. I mean, there are businesses where it makes tons of sense, but for what we do, comedy programming, it just didn't make any sense. It wasn't scalable, I should say. It's really not that scalable. I wanted a business that could be, $100 million business, $500 million business. Doing brand integrated original video programming, I wouldn't have lived long enough dealing with.
I would say to you this: brand integration. I agree with you. And for viewers who don't understand brand integration, it's basically product placements, or it's basically what I'm doing here is in-show, reading off advertising, and that business is quite hard to scale. But at the volume that video is on the internet, I know a few businesses that are getting enormous on ad-only businesses.
Yeah, oh, totally. And there are
translucent overlays. It's surrounds. It's pre-roll video.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, but I think for us anyway, here's the difference. Is like JibJab has always been about creating a premium brand on the web. And when you start to, and I am not knocking ad-supported businesses. I mean, I hear Next New is doing great. I mean, there are great video businesses.
You do?
Well, what do I know, right?
I have nothing against Next New, but weren't they about to be acquired by Google or something?
I don't know. I mean,
that was the rumor mill.
But I'm saying great in terms of scale of videos. So billions of videos viewed. So even if you have tiny CPMs,
I have nothing against Next New. I didn't mean it to sound like that, but you made it sound like they were exploding.
No, I just mean
my
from a
sense
scale.
Is you've got Revision 3 and Next New and a number of the kind of players in the category who have built interesting businesses, but still trying to determine, can you hit the scale?
How do you get $100 million? How do you create a scale business? And
but but we're starting to see it, Greg. I mean, you look at, we're on to a next topic here, which is how is video changing? YouTube in the day, when you were there, they didn't have the mechanisms to monetize. I sat with senior studio guys who lamented the fact that you can only get $2 eCPMs on YouTube. Well, actually, that's not totally true. Branded eCPMs, you can get north of $4. Unbranded is about $1. But I look at businesses, I know there's two in town here, Machinima. We had the guys who funded Machinima on the show, Mark Terbeek.
They're fantastic.
300 million video views. And if you want to talk about those numbers at a blended eCPM, and I don't know the numbers, I haven't looked at them, but call it $2, $3.
$2, $3. Okay, so wait, first of all, endemic advertising advertisers to the category.
So I'll give you non-endemic. There's a company.
The other thing is, let's just go. So, a hit, and don't forget also, Machinima is a very different model than JibJab. JibJab was about producing a limited quantity of highly produced content versus Machinima, which is kind of a much more, their production model and their content model is much more scalable than kind of what our model was. So when we were looking at it from the hit business perspective, we said, okay, a hit for us is a hit for anybody is 5 million views on a video. That's a big hit, right? If you look on the top 10 on YouTube or probably 20 on YouTube now, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's in that 5 to 10 million range. So now if you put your $4 CPM against a 10 million stream video, you're talking about $40,000. The risk reward ratio for low volume, highly produced content on the web still doesn't make sense. It doesn't mean there aren't opportunities to create brands in categories, especially where they're endemics, or to create a programming model where you can just have tons of like a demand kind of model where you can produce tons of content. It's not what we are. We're a premium branded original content.
And to be clear, my argument wasn't that that's what JibJab should do. And again, going back more than 2 years, you and I were talking about subscription, and I was excited about that business. I was only reacting to the comment that you can't build a scalable video business relying on advertising, because I see them. There is one individual that I know of with no staff at all doing 1 million views a day.
What's the content genre?
Comedy. Comedy and music.
1 million?
I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
1 million views a day. Comedy and music. I mean, insane.
That's great.
And
1 million views a day at $4, assuming 100% sell through is 4,000. Here's the difference. The difference is that is. If you're like an individual creator, like you mentioned the pumpkin stabbing one, right? That was a director my brother and I found who now does the Annoying Orange on YouTube, which is a monster hit, right? Same guy. He is rolling in it, like. I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm just saying, it's given the scale of his viewership and you apply your $4 CPM and you're not really sold through. But if you're trying to build a studio business, I think it's harder, actually. I wouldn't, and it's gotten much better, don't get me wrong, like Break's a great example of guys who are really actually building a branded original video production business.
And for people who know, it's Break Media. And Break Media has, I guess you could say they've targeted an age demo, which is youth male. Youth male. I mean, this is something you need to think about if you want to go into video or frankly any product, which is how am I going to reach an audience that's discreet, that is hard to reach, that other people can't reach. And Break Media reaches these people that aren't watching television anymore, that advertisers want to get access to, so their CPMs are incredibly high.
Absolutely. I mentioned, you'd mentioned machinima. I mean, they have an endemic category. The other thing is get a demo people want to reach. Our problem, it's a golden problem, but our problem is that our brand is really like 50% men, 50% women, like bell curve on the age side of things. So we don't have an endemic kind of advertiser category that wants our audience, like a Revision 3, for example. And we also don't have a very kind of focused demographic profile. So that's why it's not good for us. But I totally agree. I didn't mean to
I promise I was never arguing JibJab should do that. I just want people to know, as they're thinking about the businesses they might create or getting into, I actually have seen a shift in the last 1 year. And it's really a lot of it about the tools that YouTube is enabling. Okay? YouTube is enabling subscriptions now. They didn't used to do it. So you can capture users that every time you put stuff out, they're viewing. YouTube is enabling you to sell the real estate around the video, so there's ways to be able to sell the inventory. YouTube now does, as you know, those kind of translucent ads. You don't have to do anything, they'll just run them. Now, I don't know exactly their rates. I think it's about $1 an eCPM. So that's hard to make money on. But then if you build to a category or a demo that is brand safe, then you can sell your own inventory, or Google will sell it for you at a premium. And so I'm just saying, like, understand your audience, understand what, like I always tell people.
If we built JibJab today, I would not have built a website. Maybe that's the best way to look at this, is that I totally agree. If you're going to build a video business today and try to build a brand, I think with all of those tools and all of those...
Fish in the pond where all the customers already
are. Totally.
Otternod would like to ask you whether you've thought about doing content deals with people like Xbox Live.
We have not looked at consoles yet. I think it's a huge opportunity for us in the future. The hardest thing about running a relatively small business, I mean, we're 40 people, but we're basically a content studio and a distribution business all in one, is that you're always making kind of resource decisions. And so we're doing so well kind of with our core business right now on the web, and we have 2 other initiatives we're going after that are very related to the platform, or that we can leverage a platform we've built and go after, that we're focused on the web. We're focused on the web.
DBCSG again is weighing in. Would like to know whether you can reach a targeted demo via your Facebook page. And I'd like to maybe broaden the question, which is, what has social done for you? What has Facebook done for you? Do you spend a lot of time building up an audience and a fan base, pushing out status updates? And I want to leave Facebook Connect out for a moment, but talk about that.
Yeah, just, I mean, part of the reason we were able to start this business is because the web is social. I mean, and social in '99 meant put on a form field that says email this to your friend, enter their email and type in a message. So, social is the rage, but social has been kind of the fuel of our distribution since day one. When we released This Land and we seeded it to 100,000 people who joined our email list, the content spread via email, which is a social network. Now it's, non-persistent, but I mean, it's connections of people, over a network. The only difference on Facebook is now it's centralized and persistent. So we've always looked at social to drive distribution, and we are huge, early adopters of Facebook Connect and deep integrators.
But avoiding Connect for a moment, because I want to ask specifically about that, but have you found your customer acquisition costs go down? Have you found increased viral coefficient, they call it, the number of people through Facebook?
Absolutely, and it's hard for me to separate that from the Connect question, because Connect really is what drives it for us.
Well, let's bring it in. Let's bring it in.
To your viral coefficient, I just want to hit a number that I think your audience might find interesting, is that, when someone shares a piece of content they created on JibJab by email, we see anywhere, typically 3 to 4 recipients on average for that piece of content. When someone posts it to Facebook, uses our Connect tools to post into the stream, we'll typically see anywhere from 12 to 20 plus clicks back from that post. So there is a multiplier effect on Facebook.
Do you try to create incentives or make it easier, or
the incentive is great content. That is honestly, there are no game elements on the site.
No game mechanics.
It's really is. I mean, what we try to do is really just create a great piece of content people want to share. So that's what we do.
Now, Facebook Connect gives you access to user data.
Yep.
Things like birthdays and other information. Sometimes political views, sometimes age demo views. Is any of that useful to you?
Oh my, absolutely. Like the most important thing is the friend graph. I mean, hands down, the most important thing to integrate if you're doing a Connect integration is the friends graph, because when someone lands on the content page and they see all of the thumbnails of all of their friends right there, and they can click one and share it. I mean, that's how we get that kind of 3 to 4, from email to 20 and Facebook kind of multiplier.
Right.
The other thing for us, which is we have 2 things that are incredibly valuable in terms of creating an awesome product experience, are the birthdays, because our primary subscription model is based around e-cards. Right. You want to send a birthday card, so we can create intent with that data. So when you come to our site now and you connect, you'll be able to see your friends on the page who are having a birthday. So we like to create intent. And the other thing is Starring You is about is a product where people can put their faces into our videos. You can actually, once you're connected, access all of the photos you have on Facebook in the creation process on our website. So Connect has enabled our product team and our tech team, who are awesome, to create awesome experiences they could never create without that kind of data.
Okay, great. Now, we started dancing around this issue of Polaris. I'm going to want to talk about that in a moment, but I don't want to lose the opportunity to thank GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting is a platform that enables you to do webcasting or sharing of slides. I think probably slightly less relevant to your business because you're a consumer proposition, but for people who are doing enterprise sales where you don't want your people to have to travel, you want to be able to reach out to customers, you want to be able to walk through PowerPoint slides and the like, GoToMeeting is a great product for doing that. It's the product that I actually used. We started with a company called Placeware. They were bought by Microsoft. Unfortunately, acquisitions at Microsoft sometimes are where great products go to die. And we switched to GoToMeeting many years ago, and I've used them ever since. If you would like to use it, there's a promo code. You can get 30 days for free if you type in the promo code VENTURE. And yet again, I actually endorse that product. Polaris, they're not an LA firm. How did you come across them? How did you decide to use them? Did you do a beauty contest? Did you just know them?
Yeah, it was interesting.
And how much did you raise in 06?
In 06, we raised $6.4 million. So
wow.
Yeah. So It was a little bit of serendipity in that I was about to start pulling a deck together to go out and raise, and I got a call from a cold call actually from John Flint, who's a co-founder of Polaris, and he was a fan. He loved what we were doing. They were really interested in the video space, and he came out and we went to dinner and had some more conversations. Went to another dinner, and we made a pretty quick decision that he was interested in the business for all the right reasons that were aligned with the opportunity the way my brother and I saw it. And it was you can imagine an incredibly personal decision after 6.5 years to figure out who you're going to be in business with.
What worried you about taking venture capital?
Well, I just, coming from a finance background, I knew I had a lot more. Well, we had built an incredibly valuable brand by that point, but the monetization was still, still murky. Yeah. But it wasn't like it was in '99, where we didn't take money, where we could have raised $1 million probably pretty easily. Here, it was a much bigger play, and we said, let's really go after this. Let's really expand and raise capital. And I had a much more confidence that the monetization was close, that we'd figure it out in the near term.
There's a question coming up from, I don't know why everyone chooses these names, Sucking.
Okay.
Sucking. Again, my kids would get pretty good mileage out of that. How has John contributed throughout the growth of JibJab besides just dollars? And that's referring to your VC.
Yeah, it's the same way any great VC does. It's been really about kind of experience and relationships. I think on the experience side, John's a partner. He's been around through a bunch of cycles. I mean, there's a lot of consumer brand work that he's done, and especially in the CD-ROM business.
Right.
So lots of kind of insights, even as old as we are from '99, that he brings to the table. And the other is just relationships. I mean, Polaris has been just incredible in terms of introducing us to other great people and helping us form relationships that have been really valuable to the business.
And I would like to say that I ordinarily don't ask people about VCs because you're not going to go on a video show and actually say anything bad.
I tell you.
But no, but I know, because you and I have talked about this so much offline, is you tell me you love Polaris and you're very happy with them, so that's a great story. And I always feel like when I hear something organically off camera, I owe it to that firm to at least.
Well, there you
Everyone
go.
loves to bash VC, so if I get a chance to talk good, Polaris has done right by you. Boothie would like to know, since JibJab makes people pay for content, how do you combat pirating?
It's a great question, and it's one of the beauties of personalization. So our product called Starring You is in essence lets people customize our templates with their own photographs. And so the way it works from a technical perspective is you upload a photo, and when you share that video, the video isn't technically rendered as a video, it's a flash player, and it's every time wherever it plays on the web, it's calling our server saying, hey, give me this movie and give me these heads.
So the assets
the assets go out
on the server.
So I mean, there's kind of like an EDRM to it, an effective DRM built in on that side. And then the other thing I would say is like helping them find great content fast. Like you may be able to find a video piece of content that works well as a birthday e-card on YouTube. I'm sure you can. But like, do we help people discover the right thing faster? And then also, do we create a premium product experience around it? So when the person clicks through, they're not looking at a YouTube page. They're actually looking at a beautifully designed page with a personalized message.
And so the whole market was, kind of ads in an ad business. You had this aha that said we can build something that is more like a subscription greeting card type model. How did you get that aha?
Well, the aha was a little bit from a place of like survival. We had actually raised this money, and the strategy was to go after big brands and to produce original programming with big brands, and we did it. I mean, we did a huge thing called Great Sketch Experiment. We got John Landis from Animal House to produce all these videos. Verizon sponsored. We were on the Tonight Show. They bought airtime. I mean, it was a huge kind of brand success, but it sucked you realize this is not scalable.
Yeah.
I could do like 4 of these a year and I'll be dead in 3 years.
Yeah.
So it was after that, and it was about 6 months after we had raised the money, where it was a Christmas break, and I was just like kind of banging my head against the wall. How can we take what we do and find a way to build a direct-to-consumer business?
Right.
Because this is not scalable. And after research, I said, I wonder what e-cards do. And American Greetings, luckily, is a public company, and I opened up the 10K for American Greetings, and sure enough, they broke out their interactive division, and they had $80 million a year business with 4 million paid subs, paying anywhere from $14.99 a year up. And so I looked at it and I said,
their product is
e-cards.
No, I know, but it's not very good, right? So you're like, I can beat that, right? Here's an interesting thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't really know, who didn't go to Wharton and didn't work in investment banking, is you can learn a tremendous amount about how businesses work by pulling their annual report or their 10K filings. Yeah. And even as a, gears up to go public, and their S1 registration will list, here's our business, here's how we charge, here's what our revenues are, here's the distribution, here's the risks. It's all out there.
It's all out there, yeah, totally. And like I said, what was interesting to me was that the greetings business offline is an $8 billion industry in the U.S. American Greetings is a $2 billion revenue business, and here was this little $80 million business that they actually broke out as a segment. So it was a little bit of luck that it was there. And when I saw it, I went to my brother and I said, look at this. Here's an opportunity for us to build a direct-to-consumer business that's not, dependent on like the volatility of licensing and ads.
Yeah. And was that before or after the success of Elf Yourself, which I think was Office Max?
That was before. So that was before.
You had the idea before you saw Office Max?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
And then, look, I had little kids back then. We elfed ourselves. So, it was like 60 million or something, I remember reading, or 80 million. How many?
In terms of
how many people viewed the first year they launched it? It was in the tens of millions.
It's tens of millions,
And how, because you have a partnership with them, right?
Yeah, well, so we weren't involved when it first launched, but in 2007, the fastest growing website on the web, according to ComScore, was Office Max because of Elf Yourself, and the second fastest growing website on the web was JibJab, and we had a personalized elf thing that we did with Pepsi.
Right.
So in January, I think, I literally cold called the CMO of Office Max, and I said, hey, let's do this together, and we started a conversation.
What was in it for them?
Basically, the way we work is we don't do for hire work. You asked about service work earlier. It's not scalable. So what we were able to do is bring our technology platform to the table and say, hey, you're paying agencies to produce these campaigns. We'll do this for free. We'll produce the content, we'll distribute the content, and not only that, we'll monetize it with digital downloads and merchandise, and we'll actually cut you a check, turn this cost center into a profit center, which is a hard thing to, you go through your whole presentation. This is a great thing if you're an entrepreneur pitching a big company. If you can get through a presentation and then at the end of it, put up a big slide with a big 0 on it and say that's what it's going to cost you, really helps get the business. Yeah,
so rev share and
yes,
I guess it was probably great customer acquisition for you.
Totally. Right? Well, yeah, for us it was. It was great because they had a franchise that was really well known and really popular, and an opportunity for us to hit a bigger audience than we'd hit on our own.
Jen Greta would like to know, how can you afford to do any free content? How does that work? And I suppose, you tell me, it's a funnel, and someone comes to your website, you want them to play around and get a little bit hooked, and they think this is cool, and then they want the good stuff, and that's behind the paywall. Is that?
It's part.
Is it marketing?
It's marketing. It's interesting. We've evolved our thinking on this, and we've almost got it to a science now, and it depends on the holiday, and it depends on lots of different factors. But I'll say, you think about it, if you'll notice, birthdays, everything is premium because we get no viral benefit from a birthday. I make a birthday card, I send it to you.
Yeah.
Boom, it's dead. Halloween, on the other hand, we have one free video. Our top pieces of content get over 20 clicks per send on, back to the site. So there's a viral loop opportunity around certain holidays that doesn't exist in other holidays, and our pricing model.
Now you don't have to answer this, okay? Because I want to ask direct questions, but Just say that's sensitive. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the ratio of free people who play with videos to conversion to subscription?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
what would people expect if they set up similar business models?
Well, I don't want to tell my competitors my conversion
exactly.
rate, but I will say it's like, it's much less for us than it is for...
Single digits, though.
Yes.
Single digit percentages, right?
Like much less than, say, like an e-commerce site where where the sole purpose of going there is to buy something. Like for us, we're primarily an entertainment site, so people don't come to us with intent to purchase.
But in a way, it's similar to the freemium model, which is,
totally,
you know, you try to build a wide end of your funnel. You get lots of people in the door. You view them all as marketing, and marketing in two ways. One is go tell lots of other people, because the wider my funnel is, and the higher I can increase my conversion ratio, you know, the more business I'm going to do. So you spend all your time saying, how do I tell everyone else to join the top end of the funnel, and what things can we tweak to increase from, I'll make up numbers, to increase from 1.5% to 2% to 2.25 to 4, and wider funnel, higher conversion, more revenue.
Huge leverage, right?
What have you done to increase your percentage from X
on conversion?
To Y? Yeah, on conversions.
It's all like, it's about the offer. It's really, there's so many things, and luckily I've got an awesome, you know, product and engineering team that we've iterated on this for 3 years now. I mean, we started.
Can you give us one example from 2 years ago that's not trade secrets?
Let me give you one that's kind of more technical, and then one that's kind of more like, I can't believe that's really that effective. One that's technical was, originally we started the business, we had a credit-based model. You spend it was $5, you get 50 credits, you spend your credits down, and you send cards. Right. What we realized was we were creating scarcity where it didn't exist, and by creating scarcity, people weren't sharing as much as they could.
And they weren't marketing.
And they weren't marketing. So we realized, okay, the average customer is going to spend this much, let's just make an all-you-can-eat pricing plan. So boom, pricing. That was one like lesson. The other, I would say, is simply, you know, for like a year and a half, maybe a little longer actually, we were, is it $13.99 a month or for a year, and $6.99 for 6 months, or all these different pricing plans. Isn't, you know, and finally we landed on, it's $12 a year, it's $1 a month. Right. It created a frame of reference that people felt comfortable. I can get $1 worth of value out of this a month. It created a frame of reference. Simply copy, nothing technical, nothing fancy, and we were able to actually really juice our conversion rates we convert better at $12 a year than we do at $9.99 a year.
That's unbelievable.
It's more expensive, but $9.99 a year. Am I going to use it that much?
Frame
in a year?
of reference and pricing
Frame of reference
matters.
and pricing and time frames matters a lot.
Super interesting. And so thinking about this overall. Facebook. So right now, do I have to give you a credit card, or how do I pay?
You can pay. Yeah, we take credit cards. Primarily, we use PayPal right now on our back end. But
now you have a virtual good. Okay, so if I think about mobile payments, for example, there is a model by which you can use a mobile payment mechanism instead of having to get out your credit card. You get billed to your phone number. It goes on your bill.
We do that.
The huge advantage of that is people don't have to get out a credit card. They just have to, you know, approve the payment, especially if they're on their mobile. The disadvantage is a large slice of that revenue goes away. And so that business, which has grown and become like Zong and people like that are doing it.
Yeah, we use MoPlay, or I forget the name of it.
They use one of the great players out there.
Exactly.
But you know, the beauty is you should be able to drive up a lot more conversion of people paying. And you can't really use these mechanisms on physical goods because the margin you have to pay is too high. But on virtual goods like yours, it should work.
You can, I mean, it's interesting. You're seeing that play out all over the place. I mean, you're seeing it in mobile payments, you're seeing it in Facebook credits, and you're seeing it like, you know, in the on iOS. So for us, we have the ability to buy one-off purchases with a mobile phone. So if you buy a download, you can actually opt to pay with it. Okay. We did a bunch of testing for our product. The lift required to overcome the, you know, the increased VIG wasn't there. And then we also had some recurring billing issues with mobile payments versus you know, credit cards. So it hasn't been a big win for us, but I mean, it's still there, and we keep experimenting with it.
So Jen Goethe, I said it wrong before, I said Greta, it's Jen Goethe, has the same question that I was asking about, which is mobile. Like, how do you think about mobile? in the context of JibJab, but I'd also like to know more broadly. What do you think in terms of mobile video, and what state of the market are we in?
Yeah, so for us, I'd be all over mobile if my platform wasn't Flash. I mean, that's the problem. So we're in the process of evaluating the best way to kind of manage.
You're looking at HTML5?
We're evaluating everything right now. I mean, we do some pretty sophisticated stuff with Flash, so we're trying to figure out, and also Flash is integrated into the workflow, the production workflow, so it's not just a question of what you
Apple blocked Flash? I mean, they claimed it was technical. You know, more insiders were telling me if you allowed Flash, it would allow too many free games, and therefore Apple couldn't monetize.
Yeah, I think I think it's probably, there isn't a black and white answer, would be my guess, is that there's a convenient scapegoat in terms of like what it does in terms of the elegance of the experience, right? But I do have to think processor speeds and better computing hardware will make up for that. But I also think it's so it's a question of control. But hey, I've used Flash on my Droid too. Right. It's a donkey. I mean, you know what? I hate to say it, but we're going to make the investment because, we know we can deliver a killer experience for our users on iOS, and you cannot do that on Android today with Flash for us, for what we do.
Okay, and so I'm being told to wrap soon. Sure. I want to keep going for a little bit, so if the producers could tell me if it's a really hard stop or if I could run a tiny bit over, I want to ask a question that DBSCG asked, which is one that was already on my list. Internationalization. Are you 99% US? How do you think about international markets?
We're almost, depending on the season, we are 50-50 international and US. It's incredible.
Shit.
Yeah, no, we're huge in the Philippines. And Santiago, Chile is like our biggest city. I don't know why, but it's amazing. I mean, our audience is all over the world, and a lot of that is just because of the comedy we do. It's a lot of like the dances. A lot of it is very physical and not language-based. So we have huge amounts of international traffic, which is great for the brand.
Yeah.
But as a smaller company, the challenge becomes how do you really efficiently monetize it? Because conversion internationally is much different than conversion domestically.
Have you had to deal with fraud? Has fraud ever been a problem?
No,
in
never.
billing?
We've never had.
Did you build your own billing mechanisms?
We built our own.
How do you deal with chargebacks?
Yeah. Well, we use PayPal today. We built our own kind of subscription, a subscription engine on our side to tie into the account so we know if people are over or under. But there is a whole class of subscription management systems.
I just wanted to give a little promote, which is not a company that I'm an investor in. I suppose I wish I was. It's a company called Zuora. Do you know Zuora?
I do. I know. Yeah.
Zuora, Z-U-O-R-A. It's run by a guy named Teen Su. I know Teen from my Salesforce.com days. He was one of the brains of Salesforce. He was, there were a couple go-to guys, Teen Su and George Hu and a number of these really smart guys. And he realized that there were all these companies being created, like yours on the internet, who wanted to be able to offer subscriptions to customers. The problem is being able to create different packages and different ways of doing billings.
It's complex.
And, for example, it's not just I want to create a subscription, it's $12 a month. There's other services who say, I want to create a subscription product around anyone who uses more than 2 meg of storage. How do you create these throttles? And so this whole complex world of billing, I know Zuora does very well, and I'm not an investor, but I admire what they're doing. There's another one that is out there called Vendicia.
Recurly is another one that started by one of the founders of
And what people don't think about that someone like Vendicia I know handles is dealing with fraud and chargebacks and other things. So chargebacks, if people don't know, if you get into billing, you learn all this shit, right? People will buy a bunch of your services and then they'll go to the credit card company and charge it back. And especially if you have a virtual good, it's like, you took it, you got to pay. And there are professional rings of people who do them. I guess in a way, virtual, you're probably less likely to experience it because if someone sent me jeans and then I charge back, it's kind of hard to recover that. But, so they do think with things like chargebacks. They also deal with the thing on subscription products. Here's something that you may or may not think about. You run into problems where someone's card gets outdated and it's past its date, and they got issued a new card.
Yeah.
So you try to bill them for their monthly subscription, but it's out of date, but they had a new card.
Yeah.
And so you deal with all these sorts of issues, and having someone who handles all that for you.
So good. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, Recurl, even DC, we're talking to all these guys, and they actually help. They'll actually do card updates. They have relationships with the vendor, so if the expiration date changes, I mean, yes, don't build your own subscription management.
I'm going to ask you one last question so I don't run over too much longer, but I want to know about life inside a company that's 11 years old. Mm-hmm. I know at my first company, around 5 years, everything changed. Yeah. The things that changed is it was no longer about stock options and youth culture. Yeah. It was no longer about 1 a.m. every single night. Yeah. We all got married and had kids and got gray hair. Yeah. And like, how has life changed for you? How do you manage through that? How has it changed for your team?
Yeah, I think especially in the past 5 years, it's really about learning to hire great people and trust them to do their job. And, being the founder who, for 6 years sat there and did everything, it's hard to kind of extract yourself from it. But then, I think, you get to a point where you start to see the results of actually letting people do what they do and just killing it. And so, it's a challenge, when you're the kind of the sole guys running the ship, and then how do you scale it and build a culture that attracts great people that are passionate about what they do? I mean, that's the thing about my brother and I. It's like, we'll hire anyone if they're passionate. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? If they're smart and they're passionate, it's like,
the first slice on recruiting is cultural fit, including passion?
Yeah, well, I think the first slice is just kind of looking like you've got something some experience that may be of value, even if it's not of direct value.
Right.
Like, you hire people who, I've hired someone who worked in a function before but never in e-commerce because when we talked, I could tell that, her instincts were great. Right. So, for us, it's about that. And it's really about passion. Like, there's nothing that makes you feel better than when somone is like really into solving a problem.
Yeah.
Working for you. Because then you can go, I can let them go. They're just, they're going to be so all over.
Are you recruiting now?
We are.
Are you kind of fully staffed?
We're pretty fully staffed now. It's the beauty of our business is we're at a point where we've got a great staff and revenues, growing at a good 40% clip, and like our costs don't need to grow. So
20-second question. Yeah. Do you think about selling, or are you in this for long haul? How do you think about that complex
Well, some might say we've been in it for the long haul.
Yeah,
it's been a long haul, but selling for us has always been a function of just like executing on the business front. This is something like, obviously you maintain industry relationships, but I'm never shopping the company. Like to me, when I put the P&L in front of someone, that's what's going to sell the company. It's not, me spinning a tale.
Okay. I want to thank our sponsors today, Cloud Sponge, Fenwick & West, GoToMeeting. But what a wonderful hour this was. I think people got a lot of value out of hearing your story. You built one of the great, I think, treasures of the internet. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you to Gregg Spiridellis.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.